Stop him! He has my envelope! Get back here!
The sound came from the gate, not the house. A short crack, then a pressure that lifted the ground. Metal shook. Glass answered. When the noise cleared, Judith Adeyemi was already running, barefoot on the tiled corridor, her breath uneven, her name caught somewhere behind her teeth. Oba was not at the door. Moments earlier, Saad had stepped into the living room with a brown envelope held flat against her chest. No stamp. No return address. She said it had come urgently, that the rider refused to leave it at the gate. Judith had looked up from her phone, irritated more than curious. Before she spoke, Oba lunged. The dog's teeth closed on the envelope. He turned and ran. Close the gate, Judith said, too late. The guard hesitated. Oba slipped through. The blast followed quickly, dull and close. The gate buckled. Dust rose and hung. Somewhere near the fence, something yelped once and did not move again. Judith reached the broken concrete first. Oba lay on his side, bleeding from the flank, his chest working. The envelope was gone. The fence behind him had split outward. She knelt without thinking. Her hands shook as she pressed against the wound, whispering his name. The guard called for the car. Saad stood back, one hand over her mouth, eyes fixed on the ground. Silence held for a moment. Then the house began to fill with sound. At Reddington Hospital in Victoria Island, Oba was taken from her without ceremony. A nurse asked her to sign a form. Judith signed where she was told. Her hands left smudges. Mr. Okonkwo arrived before the surgeon returned. He did not sit. He told her they would not be going home. He told her to make no calls on her personal line. He told her this was not a warning. Judith nodded. She watched the doors. When the surgeon finally came out, he said the dog would live, but slowly. Shrapnel had torn through muscle meant for running. Oba would need time. Judith closed her eyes. Later, as the adrenaline thinned, details returned without invitation. The rider's insistence. Saad at the gate earlier that week, speaking low into her phone. The way Oba had not barked, only acted. She paused. In the waiting room, Mr. Okonkwo showed her a still frame from the compound camera. A motorcycle angled toward the gate. A helmet visor down. The rider's finger pointed inward, not toward the guard. Who did he ask for? Judith said. Mr. Okonkwo did not answer immediately. He enlarged the image. The rider's mouth was open, mid-sentence. The guard's body turned. He asked for Saad, he said. Judith looked back at the operating doors. Oba had made a choice without instruction. He had taken the danger away from the house and toward himself. Judith understood then that someone had learned her routines closely enough to test them, and that the gate had not been the first place they entered. Hello guys, welcome to Ebony Billionaire Tales. Let's prove my girlfriend wrong and hit 1,000 subscribers. If you love African stories filled with emotion, family drama, and powerful comebacks, please subscribe, like, and share. Judith did not return to Lekki. She spent the night in a serviced apartment arranged by Mr. Okonkwo, the kind meant for short stays and long silences. The walls were bare. The windows did not open fully. She sat on the edge of the bed and listened to traffic she could not see. In the morning, the security team assembled around a low table. Laptops opened. Screens divided the room. No one spoke until Mr. Okonkwo nodded. They began with the gate camera. The rider arrived at 9:12 a.m., helmet on, engine running. He did not look around. He did not ask questions. He refused to hand the envelope to the guard. His finger pointed inward, steady. I was told to give it to Saad. The audio caught faintly. Another pause. The guard called her name. Saad appeared from the side entrance. She did not smile. She did not hesitate. She took the envelope with both hands. Judith watched without moving. They rewound. They slowed the clip. On the third viewing, Judith noticed how Saad glanced once toward the house before stepping back inside. It was brief. It was enough. The room waited. That look, Judith said. Her voice sounded distant to her own ears. Play it again. They did. No one disagreed. By afternoon, the rider had been identified. His name was Bashiru. He delivered documents in the area. He had no known criminal record. He had been paid in cash. He was arrested before evening. Saad was brought in after sunset. She stood in the apartment living room, hands folded, eyes darting between faces. Judith sat across from her, her posture straight, her expression unreadable. I didn't know, Saad said quickly. Madam, I swear. Judith said nothing. Mr. Okonkwo asked where the rider had found her number. Saad shook her head. She said she didn't remember. She said many riders came. She said she had been scared. Silence stretched. Judith leaned forward. You have worked in my house for 4 years, she said. You know my habits. You know my gait. Saada's eyes filled, but the tears did not fall. She clasped her hands tighter. At the station, Bashiru spoke without drama. He said a man had paid him to deliver an envelope. He said the instruction was specific. He said the woman inside would know what to do. He said her name. Judith closed her eyes when Mr. Okonkwo told her. That night, she returned to the hospital. Oba was awake but weak. His tail moved once when he saw her. She rested her palm against his head and stayed that way until visiting hours ended. She paused. On the drive back, Mr. Okonkwo told her about the night guard, about call logs, about payments spread thin over months, hidden inside ordinary transfers. Judith looked out the window. This had not started with the letter. It had required patience, familiarity, access. By the time they reached the apartment, she had already decided. She would not confront Saad again without proof. She would not rely on affection where discipline was required. And she would not underestimate how long resentment could wait when it was given a place to hide. The betrayal was no longer a suspicion. It had shape. Saada's confession came in the quiet of the interrogation room. She did not scream. She did not beg. She spoke in measured words, each one a small surrender. I was paid, she said. I did not want to. I was angry. I followed instructions. Judith listened. The room smelled of disinfectant and fear. Oba's absence was a sharp reminder of what had almost been lost. The payment had come from Bashu, the rider, who had followed instructions from Chief Judith Adeyemi, Judith's ex-husband. The man she had once trusted to share the house, the life, even the city with her, had orchestrated this. Not for murder at first, not yet, but for fear, control, leverage over her company. Saada's hands shook. It was never meant to kill you, she said. I swear. He wanted to scare you, make you hesitate. Judith did not answer. She let the words hang. Fear, power, betrayal. They settled in the room like dust. Bashiru confirmed everything quickly. He had no loyalty beyond the cash, but his testimony sealed the pattern. And Chief Judith Adeyemi, when arrested, neither denied nor dramatized. He spoke calmly, almost boredly. She must be reminded of her place, he said. I only wanted her cautious. The company should not escape me. Judith felt a hollow tightening. The men had plans layered for months. The payments to Saad, the observations by the night guard, the repeated failures to harm her. Each event had been a brick, building toward a moment meant to fracture her life. At the house, Oba was recovering slowly, his body marked by what he had stopped. Each day, Judith watched him rise to his paws and shake the dust off. He was alive. He had acted without instruction. He had chosen. The court proceedings were clinical. Saad admitted manipulation, regret threading through her voice. Bashiru offered no remorse. Chief Judith Adeyemi claimed fear was his instrument. The judge listened, and the verdict followed, 30 years for each. No fine, no leniency. The sentence did not undo the betrayal, but it fixed the measure of justice. Judith returned to the apartment alone after the hearings. She did not speak. The city continued. Horns, sirens, the occasional gunshot in the distance. She let them roll past without acknowledgement. Later, a call came. The voice was unfamiliar but deliberate. Chief Lonra was not alone. The plan had not ended. Another player remained. Felix Maduka, the silent investor, was already moving. Judith sat on the edge of the couch. She did not flinch. She did not panic. She let the silence stretch, counting the cost before speaking aloud to Mr. Okonkwo, who waited patiently. We prepare, she said. And for the first time in weeks, she felt a calm settle over her chest. She had seen the shape of danger. She had met the betrayal. She knew now the price of awareness. And she would pay it in vigilance, not fear. Judith returned to the public eye at a charity event in Victoria Island. The hall was polished and warm, guests speaking in soft tones. She walked through the crowd with deliberate ease, Oba no longer at her side, but never far from her memory. Felix Maduka was there. He stood near the entrance, arms crossed, his expression tight. Security closed in silently around him as Judith approached. He tried to assert authority, to reclaim the tension she had already survived. But Oba's absence did not diminish the instinct she had inherited from him: vigilance, precision, decisiveness. Felix was taken into custody without struggle. Later, Felix admitted that Chief Lanra had orchestrated the attacks, but that he had intended to finish the plan himself. Judith heard him without emotion. Justice had been served once. Survival required more than law. It required awareness. Life at Judith Group resumed. Offices filled with familiar energy. Meetings happened. Decisions were made. But Judith herself remained guarded. Anxiety lingered in quiet moments. Every sound outside the gate, every late call, recalled the first crack, the explosion, the whimper near the fence. She visited women's shelters, speaking of strength not as invincibility, but as the ability to endure without bitterness. She told them about trust, about loyalty measured in action, not words, about boundaries that must be firm even with those once loved. Oba's health declined steadily. Judith stayed by his side, hand on his head, tracing the scars he bore. When he died, it was quietly, peacefully, under the tree he loved. A plaque was placed afterward, simple and unassuming, a mark of loyalty beyond speech. She remembered the first day he saved her, and she remembered every day he gave after. Months passed. Judith visited Chief Lanra in prison once more. Their conversation was calm. He admitted regret. She offered forgiveness, but drew a boundary that would not bend. Reconciliation was not the goal. Peace was. She left the prison with her posture intact, her mind clear, her claim to self reaffirmed. The cost was clear. Trust, once broken, had to be rebuilt carefully. Affection could not erase betrayal. Love could not coexist with control. Oba's sacrifice remained the clearest measure of loyalty. It had no conditions, no calculations. Judith learned to move forward with awareness, with patience, with a quiet reclamation of power. She led, she survived, she healed. The world had not stopped. She had not stopped. And she would not. If you believe stories can heal, subscribe, like, and share this with someone who needs it.